Hi, my name is Felesia Gathers, and this is week 3 discussion post 2 video for the positive group. Sources of power and examples according to French and Raven. And please note that my examples are from the One Health case study. Legitimate power. Power derived from authority of social rank or position. Example, should she conform because of his position as a doctor, it would be legitimate power. Reward power, an incentive that influences the recipient of influence to change his or her behavior with the expectation of a reward or recognition. The example is, if the physician offered the nurse favorable future treatment for following his orders and this offer influenced the nurse to change her behavior, this would be an example of reward power. Expert power. This is based on a person's high levels of skill and knowledge. The example is the nurse associates his education and experience with expert power, referent power, the attribution of prestige by the recipient of influence to the influencing individual. The example is, if the nurse conformed because other nurses respected the physician and spoke highly of him, this would be an example of referent power. Coercive power. The perception by the recipient of influence that he or she will be punished if the influencer's explicit demands or perceived expectations are not met. The example is, if the nurse were to conform to the physician's orders only to avoid being reported, this would be coercive power. Positive impacts on organization when its members exercise power. Connected influence is about leading others to better results. So, my example is my own personal experience. Working in a system of hospitals, there are rules, policies, and procedures that we have to follow. So I work in a department where the price of medications are very high. Every single patient should be registered and must go through a checklist of items. If all of those items are not accounted for, the patient cannot be seen. Here's the catch. We give chemotherapy, so if a patient has cancer and they are in the middle of treatment, we are not supposed to turn them away. So there was a patient that presented for an appointment for first-time chemotherapy, and she is so not compliant with following up with anything that has to do with her health insurance, like referrals and authorizations. The registration office calls the floor and says that the patient has no authorization on file for the 17-drug regimen that the patient is supposed to get. And to top it off, the physician's office was closed. Meanwhile, the patient is crying hysterically. She's already stressed because she was diagnosed with cancer. And she stated she didn't either understand or didn't know that insurance required authorization. So the front desk office was ready to reschedule her because they didn't want to be responsible for the $30,000 plus dollar denial that we were going to receive eventually. So one of the support staff contacted the director of the department and explained the situation. The director asked if I felt comfortable enough to get an authorization after the fact. I said I sure can try. The positive impact or influence was that the director made a decision to treat the patient out of good faith And of course I got the authorization, but it really wasn't my responsibility. But the positive thing is that the patient got treated. Mintzberg's political game playing framework, he had several. I chose strategic candidates. Strategic candidates are individuals or groups advocating for selection of a specific individual for a key position or office. So I have a personal experience regarding strategic candidates. There was a physician that changed her office from inside the hospital to her own private office a couple of miles away. When she became a surgeon years ago, I had to work with her in the hospital with a specific program. Because the department was not necessarily the most happiest place to be, I always said to her, if she ventured on her own, don't forget about me. So recently, as she planned to move, I was notified by a co-worker that she had selected someone else for her office manager position. I was a little upset, but actually went to her and she explained that she chose this particular person based upon her previous work for her. She covered quite often for the current hospital coordinator. And at that point, I understood that the physician and her staff advocated for this particular person, and it turned out positive for the surgeon and the person who got the position. Thank you.